Hey, Facebook land, it's Sarah McLeodry from Synergy Behavior Solutions in actually the sunny Pacific Northwest today, Portland. Um, it's a tease. We've given one day of sunshine in February, and now we're supposed to get a bunch of snow this weekend. And I think if you've watched my other Facebook Lives, you've heard about how Portland does not do snow, which is really funny because I'm from Chicago and they know how to do snow there. So first I'm going to come off of let's go off of my big monitor so I can actually look like I'm looking at the right thing. There we go. Um, so today, Space Invaders is what we're talking about. Um, and the reason why I brought this up is I don't know, I feel like we've had a lot of clients lately who've had a lot of miscommunications with their dogs regarding interacting with them. And also, I've seen the fallout from these Space Invader situations from the dog's perspective. Uh, so the so let's give a first example. I think we talk a lot about Space Invaders when it comes to small dogs. Small dogs live in the land of the giants, and we are constantly being a space invader for our little dogs. Just them living in our world, we are a space invader. We tend to hover on top of them. We tend to reach out to them. We tend to pick them up when they're not expecting, all sorts of stuff like that. And it's rude, man. And it's always funny, or not funny, I guess. It's always interesting when people are like, oh, my dog doesn't like to be picked up, even though it's a little dog. I'd like to pick them up. And it's like, yeah, because you've spent the last 5 years snatching them out of off the ground and into the air without any knowledge it's going to happen and invading their space, all that kind of stuff. Oh, Natalia said, do you think we'll actually get sticking snow this time? I don't know. They're talking about multiple inches over multiple days, and that scares me. All right, sorry. Distraction about snow again. It's all people are going to talk about for the rest of the week in Portland. So little dogs, they get snatched up in the air, they go flying. They're space invaders. We go to feed. Actually, hey, I don't know if Mallory's watching, but Mallory just sent me as a friend and just sent me a text about uh, sometimes her dog grabs her treats a little hard. And I was thinking about how that can be a space invading sign. Sometimes dogs just are really rude and grab treats rudely. My husband's old Labrador Bailey Bad Lab used to like take his like whole mouth around your hand. He was never taught a very polite way to take treats. But a lot of times what I see is people going to give treats to their dogs and just really in their dog's face and really quick. We're doing lots of hand motions and just really getting in the dog's way instead of offering a treat and letting them come to us or dropping a treat on the ground. So we're just like, here, have a treat. We're really excited. Our mechanics are fast. We're doing all these things, and maybe they're aroused because they're concerned about something or whatever. And so we can really be a space invader just by giving treats. You think you're doing something positive by giving them a treat, but you're really invading their space bubble when they're not expecting it. So that's something to think about. Bueller is about ready to be a space invader right now, and I'm about to not be able to talk. So, other ways that we are space invaders. Good example this morning. My toddler Lindy was lounging on the couch as I came downstairs, and she was all curled up in a ball. And I'm like, oh, she's so cute. I should go say hi to her. And she's super friendly and likes to be played with and interacted with. And as I approached, I saw the eye go back and the head go back. And she's a space invader to me all the time. So I find it funny when she's like, no. And so I approached again and I paused and she started giving me the little like elbow up. And I stopped and I took a step back and she went back to laying the way she was. And so I was just testing this because I knew I was talking about this today anyway. So I thought it was a perfect time. So I stepped in again and she kind of gave the like, and if anybody knows Lindy, they know how overly dramatic Lindy is about everything. And I stopped. And I think what happens to many of our clients is they get into that situation and they keep going and they're like, oh, yay, my puppy wants a belly rub. And Lindy loves belly rubs in like a really weird way and that I've never met from other dogs. but it was clear she did not want a belly rub. She just wanted to curl up in her little bed that was sitting on top of the couch. She was happy as could be and did not want to be bothered. She's like, I'm having my mid morning nap. Please leave me alone. Please don't be a space invader right now. Um, if I'd gone up to her because of her personality, I probably would have started petting her belly and she would have been like, okay. And eventually have been like, okay with it. But what we see is those clients misreading that Space Invader discussion from your dog wrong, and people keep going forward. And then all of a sudden, they're toweling their dog off and rubbing them down, and they're getting snapped at in their face because now you're being a space invader not only with your hands by toweling them off, and they flipped on their back saying, please don't touch me, and now you're toweling them off, and then they're like, I gave you all this communication to stop being a space invader, now I'm going to have to escalate. Snap. And you hope it's just a snap and not something else. And people get down this rabbit hole of, but he was trying to let me rub his belly. No, he's not. Stop it. And you're in their space. So, what could you do instead for wiping dogs off? One of my favorites, this is from a client long ago, actually in Chicago. She had Portuguese water dogs, so fluffy, and she had a pretty muddy backyard, so she needed to wipe their feet frequently, and one of her dogs was a very big do not invade my space kind of dog and was very clear about it. And so we taught him how to wipe his own paws by spinning circles on one of those really absorbent dog mats at the backyard. And so he would come in, he would stand on the mat, and then he would spin a circle, and then he'd spin a circle the other way and get treats for it, and it was perfect. It worked great. So she stopped being a space invader in that way. And it was awesome. Another client that I taught with needing to get their belly rubbed and having a major problem with it, we actually taught the dog how to stand with front feet and back feet over a towel, and then we would pick it up and we would chamois the dog's belly, and then we taught the dog how to burrito, which was the cue, burrito time, and we would then wrap her up, but she knew what was going to happen to her, and so she had that predictability. Hey, I'm doing a webinar on predictability, if you haven't heard, the end of February, on February 22nd, but she had that predictability of what was going to happen. And that was a little dog. That was a little Jack Russell. So she was aware the space invading was going to happen, and she had options to get out of the space invading. So there's a couple people here hanging out. Anybody have any questions? I'm going to keep rambling as we go, but I just want to make sure if anybody has any questions. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag, and then I feel bad because we don't get to your questions. So please feel free. Do the little typey thing. So other space invaders, how can we prevent it? I see this happen a lot in the veterinary setting. So you're hanging out, and this is pre-COVID. You're hanging out in the exam room with your dog, and in comes the tech or the vet, and they immediately go right into like your dog's personal space bubble. And maybe they're handing a treat, but they didn't even give your pet a moment to process what's happening, like new person, who are you, what are you doing, why are you here, all of those kinds of things. And so it's really important to take the time, let the dog acclimate, or the cat especially, oh my gosh, to acclimate to you being in the room, and let the dog choose to come to you instead of you going to them. That's a really simple change in space invading that we see. I know traditionally people were taught, oh, put your hand out to let my dog sniff that hand. Oh, it makes me like stressed out when I see that happen. Stop offering your hand for the dog to smell. The dog can smell you 50,000 yards away. Their noses are amazing. They do not have to touch your hand to smell you. And so the you offering out that hand for the dog to investigate has completely invaded their space bubble. And so what about having the dog come to you? Have the dog, do a hand target to that other person. Just stand there and let the dog choose to come to you if you want or not. There's lots of ways that you can communicate, and they do not need to touch you to smell you and see who you are. Sometimes they like to be really big space invaders. Last week, a patient who's very large, like 105 pounds, and she decided to be a space invader to me by sticking her head up my crotch. And I was like, oh, hello. But that was about like, that was a scent related getting information. That's what dogs do. So we could talk a little bit about how to deal with when the dog is the space invader also. So my favorite story about dogs who like to stick their heads in crotches, because guess what? It happens, folks, all the time. We had a client patient in Illinois who we taught the really cute trick middle. Lorena teaches it a lot. She calls it middle. I call it peekaboo, where the dog stands between your legs. And we taught one of our clients' dogs to do this, and she loved to do it. And they had a very hoity-toity um, they were both doctors, and they had a very fancy holiday winter party at their house, and most of the women came in very nice dresses, and this dog kept trying to stick her head up in people's dresses to do the middle trick, and they were just getting like offended that she was sticking her head up their crotch. So for that particular dog, to stop her from being a space invader, we actually taught her a go say hello, but not to people's hands, because that was also at crotch level. We actually taught her a go say hello to nose target people's shoes and to do a little nose tap to their shoes. It worked brilliantly. She could get that physical. It was a bouncy, happy, very easygoing doodle who liked to say hi to people. So, but it gave her that way of getting close to them and interacting with them without their guests being annoyed that she was getting a little too personal. It was a great solution. So that's a nice way to work on space invaders if you have dogs that kind of get in personal space with guests or even yourself. A little nose target to the foot is awesome. The other one is we have a lot of dogs who are space invaders where they want to be on top of you, maybe because they're anxious, worried. That's Bueller. He did go lay down somewhere. I'm not quite sure where he went. This room is only so big. But one of the things that I've been working on with him is here actually in my office is I have a dog bed off to my side, and if he is having a little stress out, I always deliver the treat to the dog bed over there, and pretty quickly, he has learned that that is the hot place to be. And he no longer needs to be a space invader up around my feet and on my lap and panting on me and being anxious because he is. And we're always working on it. So we work on to avoid space invading, to have the food always delivered away from me and at a particular location. Once again, a predictor. Hey, I'm doing a webinar about predictability, end of February. Check it out, event page. I love predictability. And so he is now starting to realize he'll woof at like a dog barking outside, look at me, and then go and lay on that bed. And so we're working on, he doesn't need to space invade me to get the treats when he's a little anxious about something. So that's been really helpful, just delivering the treats somewhere else. And it's amazing how fast dogs can figure out where you're going to deliver the treats. Dogs are energy efficient. I used to say lazy. Dogs are not lazy. They're energy efficient. And if you are going to put the treat across the room at a certain place, they're going to figure out, I'll wait there for that treat. There's no need to come up to my person to get that treat. Why waste those extra 3 steps or whatever it might be, depending on your dog? So, not lazy, energy efficient. It's how I feel about training too, energy efficient. The So I will say, I think everybody is guilty of being a space invader. We do it um, with our dogs. I think the other big thing that I see that happens a lot is clothing and bags and accoutrement on our bodies. So we go to leash up our dogs and we bend over because our dogs are small. They're not at shoulder height unless you have a Great Dane and you're short. But you go ahead and you lean over to put on that leash, and you have a pretty scarf on that you think is look quite fabulous and making you look really snazzy, and you whack your dog in the head. Or my little zipped up cardigan here, I maybe don't have it zipped up and it opens and flaps and hits my dog in the face or the back. I have a bag on my shoulder and I lean over to clip that leash on. That is actually one that Lindy has. I have a particular bag that I take back and forth to the office. And one time I had that bag on my shoulder and was not paying attention, leaned over to put her leash on, and it swung. It didn't even whack her, but it invaded her space and swung. And now she has no problem getting her leash on in many locations, in many situations. But at the door, at the office, if I have that bag on my shoulder, she gives me the, she doesn't go away or anything. She just gives me the stress, like, oh, you're going to do the thing. And as soon as I see that face, which is how do I spot my space invader, then I go, oh, it's the bag. And I set the bag on the chair right next to the door. And she's like, whew. I avoided the bag again. I put her leash on, then I put the bag on my shoulder, and she has no problem. So it's important to see those little things because all of a sudden, if I wasn't noticing that and I was repeating it time and time again, all of a sudden I would have a dog who hates getting their leash on, and I have no idea why, that I have basically ruined my dog, which happens. We do it. Unfortunately, we don't always catch these things so early. But watching their body language is key about space invading. And so what can simple solutions to change it. If you have a little dog that you need to put a leash on, ask them to jump up on the couch before you, or step up on the stairs before you put that leash on. Making sure that you don't have all of that stuff on before you leash them up or come over to pet them, things like that. um, be aware that give them a cue that they're going to be picked up so that they know and they can opt in or out of getting picked up. So all of those things, just thinking about, they have their own little bodies, they have their own space bubbles. Every dog has a different space bubble than the next. um, all three of my dogs have very different space bubbles, and it also is room dependent even for some of them. So Bueller's space bubble is very different in my office than it is in the living room where he wants to be on your lap. It's a predictor of, we're going to sit and watch TV, I should be on your lap, we should do this. And where if I was to go up to him, maybe in this room it might be different. So thinking about how can you change the picture to help yourself stop yourself from being a space. It's not even help. You need to stop being a space invader because it will help your dog. So what can you do to make little changes in your life to make it easier on your dog and their space bubble? And then also, what can you do to set up reward placements and interactions where your dog is not space invading to you if you do not want that? I always joke, those of you who have Vizslas, you wanted a space invader. That's what you like. I always joke that if, and this of course is a breed, you know, character, it's not every single Vizsla. I know a couple Vizslas that I do cooperative care work with, but many Vizslas, if they could live in under your shirt and inside of you, they would. And so, and I think a lot of golden retrievers are like that too. And I always joke that, like, I have Nova Scotia duck towing retrievers for a reason. I like their little bit of independence. I like that they're not space invaders for the most part. Lindy has been my most space invading toller that I've had. I don't have Goldens for a reason. Every breed has their person out there. But so I'm going to chat for just a few minutes in case somebody has another question. We're going to talk about snow again because it's like my favorite thing to talk about when I'm in Portland. So in Oregon, veterinarians are considered part of the 1A vaccine group. So I work at a veterinarian office. So I got my first shot, my first COVID vaccine a couple weeks ago, and I am due to get my second one on Friday, which I'm very excited about, except it's supposed to snow. And just saying that makes me anxious. So, all right. So it doesn't, so yeah, so keep your fingers crossed, Natalia, and everybody else who lives in Portland, that we will not have sticking snow for Friday morning, so I can go get my second vaccine on time and not have to attempt to reschedule it because that will really stress me out also. And then really take the time and see, how are you being a space invader? What can you do differently? If you have any questions about the concept, please feel free to put it in our comments, and we do our very, very best to try to get back and respond to those comments in our lives. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to shoot. And if you have any ideas of what you'd like us to talk about, either Lorena or I, on our Facebook Lives, shoot us a direct message. We'd love to hear what you guys want to learn about. Natalia just made the comment, oh, I think Friday's supposed to be the worst. Yes, I know. I'm a little stressed out about it. So if you have an idea of like, oh, I'd really love to hear Synergy's thoughts on whatever the topic may be, please shoot us a message. We're always kind of trying to come up with different ideas on what to talk about. We'd love to hear what you feel you need to learn more about. So once again, I'm Sarah McLeodry from Synergy Behavior Solutions. Stop being a space invader and have a great day and enjoy your pets. We'll see you soon. Bye.